The Way of the Gun is a 2000 release crime thriller written and directed by Christopher McQuarrie.
Yes, that's right. And don't forget, you can click down here to subscribe at any time during the video if you like what you're watching. So yeah, it stars Ryan Phillippe and Benicio del Toro as two kind of drifters, really, who just out for whatever they can get, really. They're trying to make a big score any way they can, really. When we first meet them, they don't really get a lot of backstory, but the first scene kind of sets them up. They're not particularly nice people, and they don't seem to really care about much. And yeah, they'll just make money however they can. So we see them donating sperm. And while they're doing that, they overhear a conversation about a pregnant lady who's getting paid $1 million to carry this baby. And straight away they think, right, okay, we can make some money here by kidnapping her and and asking for a ransom. If the person who's paying her $1 million is that rich to pay for somebody to carry their baby, then they can pay to have her back. So they formulate a plan and manage to pull it off, but they don't realise that the person whose baby is being carried is actually sort of a money launderer for, well, various shady characters, so like mob people and things like that. So obviously they're not going to stand for that. And yeah, they get various shady people involved in trying to retrieve this pregnant lady, who's played by Juliet Lewis. There's a couple of bodyguards who were tasked with looking after her, played by Taye and Nikki Cat. And we've also got James Caan in there as a sort of bag man who also is trying to get Juliet Lewis back. It's almost got a kind of Western feel to it, not only because it's quite a brown film, isn't it? It's all quite dark and dusty, and also the score by Joe Kramer, I think it was, has quite a Western feel to it as well, I think.
Yeah, no, this is quite an interesting one because when you suggested this, I was like, Where the Gun? I've heard of that, but I don't really remember it. I don't think I've seen it. And then I started watching it for this, obviously, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this one. And I remember really not liking it. So I sat and watched it.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it.
Hooray.
So I suppose, what is it, 2000, so 18 years has changed me somewhat. No, I actually really enjoyed it. But while I was watching it, I was like, so what didn't I like about it? So I started doing that kind of, trying to find all the holes in it.
Picking holes in it, yeah.
But I didn't find one.
No.
Not one. I thought it was really, really good. I think maybe, well, a couple of things. I think, obviously, so yes, you mentioned this is kind of a Western, it's modern day Western. And I think at that point there were quite a few of those kind of films coming out.
I guess so, yeah, sort of post-Pulp Fiction kind of,
there is
gritty crime dramas. Yeah.
And I suppose there's the inevitable nod to Tarantino that we've done before in other films. But that didn't bother me, and actually I almost enjoyed this more than, Tarantino films are very stylized and they are Tarantino films. This is just it's a good thriller. It's a good, strong, solid film. And there clearly are nods back. I think I liked it because there are nods back to the 70s. That kind of 70s crime thriller, westerns, like actual westerns, but also the modern day western. There's an obvious link back to Sam Peckinpah films. His films are very famous, very violent films.
Yeah.
But also that kind of, there's a lot of, in some Peckinpah films, you sometimes get like long sequences of nothing, or very reflective on the violence and the world around them. And you get that in this film. There is obviously, there's a couple of quite violent set pieces, but then there's a lot of like nothingness. Not nothingness, but obviously there's plot going on in there. But do you know what I mean? There's quite a few scenes of reflective, them talking to one another, character development. Which I really enjoyed, and I thought that worked really well.
I think, well, there's not a lot of backstory for the two main characters.
No.
You kind of, the little that you do get, you kind of, there's a little bit of voiceover at the start, and it kind of tells you all you really need to know. They're anti-heroes, and you don't really need to know that much about them.
I think if there's anything I didn't like about it, and possibly this is what I didn't like the first time round, and maybe it set me up for a fall, was the opening scene.
That's one of my favourite parts.
But it's odd because it's very funny.
Yeah.
But that doesn't match the
It
rest of
doesn't.
the film
No,
at
it doesn't
all.
really
There's
fit
no
the rest of the
comedy
film.
in the rest of the film.
No,
at
not
all.
really. No.
I mean, maybe a couple of moments, but hardly any really.
No.
It's a very different tone to the rest of the film, and I think for me, possibly that's what ruined it the first time around, because I don't really like that kind of comedy. I don't really like. It just didn't work for me. But the rest of the film, I thought was excellent. It's very dark. It's got some really great stuff in there, and it's got a great cast. I mean, Benicio del Toro is amazing. He's such an amazing screen presence. When has he ever put a foot wrong?
Well,
Hardly ever.
no.
He's so great, and he's one of those actors that you're never quite sure what he's thinking. What is he going to do next? Ryan Phillippe is that how you pronounce it?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, he's not someone I think he came out of like.
Yeah, he was in. I know what he did last summer. So he did his time in 90 slashers, and he did Cruel Intentions, which is kind of a remake of Dangerous Liaisons, which I really enjoyed. I thought he was really good in it.
I don't think I've ever seen Cruel
It's worth a watch. It's good. But he was a bit of a pretty boy, and he was going to fall in that trap of just having the same sort of roles all the time. So I think he really sort of petitioned to be in this movie, and I don't think they initially wanted him. But I think he's really good in it.
I agree.
He's great.
I think possibly last time I saw it, that may have been because I think I was never the biggest fan of I Know What You Did Last Summer and those kind of and that was that kind of period where I was kind of getting a bit sick of those kind of films, and so I probably looked at this and thought, So I just probably put my my feelings onto it before really getting into it, which is a fault on my part because he is really good in this actually, and I mean the main thing is all the characters hold me to the end of the film. All the plot, everything in there holds my attention to the end of the film, which obviously if you don't get that, then it's not a good film in your opinion.
I mean, there's a lot to sort of concentrate on because it starts to intertwine. So I think if you're not concentrating and if you just were looking for a plain action film, then it's kind of you probably won't be satisfied because there's not a whole lot of action, but there is a lot of plot that you've got to follow. Otherwise, you won't know who relates to who and what the hell's going on. So.
Yes, no, exactly, and I mean, you mentioned James Caan in another screen presence. He's done some amazing work in his career. I mean, Thief and films like way back. I mean, he's been working since the 1960s.
Yeah,
did loads of stuff, and he sometimes plays the kind of that bad guy role quite well. But
he's always
an all-rounder actually.
Sort of silently menacing.
He's always silently menacing,
even in Elf.
Yeah. Yes, even in that. Yeah, no, but he's a great. And Juliet Lewis, of course. I mean, she's kind of playing that slightly similar role to what she did in From Dusk Till Dawn. She's a little bit innocent. I mean, obviously, compared to Natural Born Killers, where she's completely psychotic, and she's usually known for playing those more psychotic roles, I think. But this, she's a bit more laid back.
If anyone is sort of a victim in this, and you can root for them, almost she does. I mean, even her character has sort of secrets that you find out about later on. She's not completely innocent, but she plays pregnant quite well. she does waddle around quite well,
and that
convincingly.
That in itself makes it for quite an interesting ride because it's not something you usually see. As this heavily pregnant woman running around with everything else that's going on, and I think she does that very well. No, I thought it was really good. I loved the soundtrack actually. You mentioned the music. I thought I thought it was a good. Again, it kind of harked back to those 70s thrillers. It feels like a modern day 70s type thriller, action thriller. I mean, there's not a huge amount of action in there. But,
I mean, one thing I would like to mention about the action is that the sort of gunplay in it feels very authentic because the way they move and they cover each other and things like that is almost Heat-like in its sort of authenticity, shall we say, rather than other action films around at the time, or any action film where they just fire randomly everywhere.
It's not OTT, and I was a little bit concerned that's what it might turn into actually. So I was nicely surprised that the gun fights that are in there do feel very authentic.
I mean, whether that kind of
it's called The Way of the Gun.
Yeah, well, quite. But whether that kind of it's a subtle way of giving them a bit more backstory. Maybe they were military trained or something like that. Who knows? But it's never alluded to, apart from the way that they do handle the weapons and move around and that. So you can just, I guess, take away whatever you want from that. But it's it adds a bit of authenticity to it. I think there's a great car chase in there as well, which is like got one of the slowest car chases ever.
Yes, this is true. Yes, that's good too.
So
no, I thought it was good. Really good fun.
And obviously, it's directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who wrote Usual Suspects. I think it is quite in the way that is all about criminals. Basically, there's no heroes in that either, really. They're all bad guys, but you're supposed to root for them anyway. That it sort of shares it like that. So I think if you do like Usual Suspects, I don't see why you wouldn't like Way of the Gun. I don't think.
Actually, that's something that because I read a few reviews about Way of the Gun earlier today, just prepping for this. And I mean, there's actually quite a few negative reviews out there about this film.
Well, it didn't do amazingly, I don't think, on release. It wasn't that well received, unfortunately.
A lot of people saying that while he's a good writer, he's maybe not a good filmmaker. I have to say I disagree with that, because I thought this was very well done. But I think there is certainly links to Usual Suspects, and that the writing is clearly very good.
Yeah.
And there's lots of, there are very big dialogue sequences in this film, like there are in Usual Suspects. And I think, it's clearly, yes, it's the same guy writing for this, for that as well. But I have to say, I thought he directed this perfectly well. I don't think I've seen anything else he's done.
Well, no, I mean, he had a big gap directing-wise until he did Jack Reacher in 2012, which is, it didn't really bother me. I haven't read any of the books, so it wasn't something that I was desperate to see or anything, but it was fine. I enjoyed it. It was good. And of course, he's done the last two Mission Impossible films as well. One's just about to come out. The last one was really good. The new one looks pretty good, so looking forward to that.
Obviously, you can still see this.
Yeah, it's quite easy to pick up on DVD. I mean, I got it when it was first released back in 2000, I guess. On Region 1.
Was there a red?
The UK one's red, yeah.
I think I had it on DVD.
Yeah.
I'm sure
I mean, I think the UK DVD drops a couple of extras. I mean, it's got some quite good stuff, and it's got a couple of commentaries on it. It's got an isolated score with the composer commentating over it as well. It's got some storyboards of a deleted scene and bits of behind the scenes and stuff. And I think the UK DVD drops a couple of them. So if you're desperate to have all the extras, and this would be the one to track down. There was a Blu-ray released for it in the States. Again, that drops some of the features. And I think that looking at reviews, I think it's got a bit of digital noise reduction on it, if you know what that is, where they kind of smooth the picture out to remove the imperfections and things like that. But it gets rid of the grain, and it gives everything a little bit of a waxy look. It's not too bad, but that's what they did to it. So it obviously looks better than DVD, but I haven't bothered upgrading yet. So there's lots of different flavours to choose from. But no Blu-ray in the UK. So
that was The Way of the Gun, and we hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, if you enjoyed the film, we'd love to know what you think about it. Let us know in the comments below.
Yep, and come and join us on Twitter and Facebook to chat about more films on there. And check out some of our other videos. There's some links somewhere on the screen and obviously on our channel page. And come back next week for another one.